71-year-old U Sang Lai and his wife Do Ji lived in this shack for 11 months after Cyclone Nargis devastated the Irrawaddy Delta in Myanmar. Unable to work and without relatives, the elderly couple haven't been able to build a new house. Although many families have rebuilt some kind of shelter, between 100 and 150,000 families still live in bamboo shacks and under tarpaulins 1 year on. And many of the rebuilt houses and shelters are substandard and will not be able to withstand another cyclone. U Sang Lai and Do Ji were selected by their local community as beneficiaries for the Red Cross shelter program. They and thousands of other vulnerable families have received support to build a new house or repair their old one. It only takes about a week to build a new house. And in late March, Sang Lai and Do Ji moved into their new home. Their home will also serve as a model for other houses in the community, as it has better bracing and a better foundation than many traditional houses. While much has been achieved, major challenges remain in the Delta. Many survivors don't only lack proper housing, they also don't have clean water or any income. On top of that come the psychological scars that follow shock and losses. Cyclone Nargis was one of the 10 deadliest in modern times. Definitely the most ferocious and deadly ever to hit Myanmar. It struck the Irrawaddy Delta the night of the 2nd and 3rd of May 2008, with winds of up to 140 kilometres per hour. More than 130,000 people lost their lives or were recorded as missing. 2.4 million people were affected, losing family members, homes, boats, farms, animals. Those who didn't lose their lives lost their livelihoods. The Red Cross responded immediately to the disaster. Lives were saved, the injured were treated, and thousands of stranded people were evacuated or rescued thanks to the presence of first aiders and unpaid relief workers. Thousands of new volunteers joined the Myanmar Red Cross after the disaster, many of them having experienced great losses themselves. The relief continued for 6 months, until more than 1 million beneficiaries had received aid in the form of food, clean water, kitchen sets and temporary shelter. Tedzin Ong is one of those new volunteers. She joined the relief work in Jailat when she saw the Red Cross volunteers distributing relief in her community. Tedzin Ong has continued her work, now helping those hardest hit and most vulnerable in the recovery phase. This is not easy, as thousands of affected people have had little opportunity to make an income for almost a year. Many survivors are struggling with debts after having had to borrow money to buy food, to sow and cultivate their crops, waiting for the next harvest. One of those struggling hard is Mint Kin. She lives in a small bamboo shack with her husband and 6 children. Earning enough to feed her children is a challenge. Earning money to keep them in school or improve her home is even more difficult. One of the ways the Red Cross is helping those who need it the most is through a Cash for Work livelihood program, where the community decides which projects should be carried out. and selects those who will get a chance to make a small income by doing the work. In Mintkin's community, they've decided to repair the road, linking the boat landing at the river with the school more than a mile away. It's all done by hand. Wet mud being lifted out of the stream and thrown from one pair of hands to another. Lumps are being placed on top of each other, shaped and stamped piece by piece. After a few weeks, the road will be dry enough for the students to use, so that they no longer have to walk through the wet, snake-infested paddy fields. Building the road is back-breaking work under the scorching sun. But Mintkin and the other 60 men and women, young and old, and covered in mud, are not complaining. Each person earns $2 per day, or $30 for the 15 days it takes to build the road. The majority on the building site are casual workers or single breadwinners in large households. Others take care of orphans or disabled family members. The money enables the beneficiaries to keep their children in school, buy a few ducks or put a new roof on their shelter. These are modest aspirations, and they're a sign that 1 year after the cyclone, thousands of people still struggle to get back to normal life. While the structural damage to the vast delta was very visible, the psychosocial trauma are often more hidden, although very extensive after a disaster on the scale of Nargis. Thousands of people suffer from the losses of children, parents, brothers and sisters. This woman from La Buddha lost her husband and 2 children and is still severely traumatized. 11-year-old Sorki too lost his 10 brothers and sisters and both parents. His father was the last to let go of his hand in the high waves after their boat had been hammered to pieces by the strong winds. Sorki too is the only survivor of his large family and now lives in an orphanage and attends school. He alternates between playing and laughing and looking like the ultimate definition of sadness, as though he's alone in this world. Nyet Nine lost his wife, 1 son and 2 daughters during the cyclone. He now lives near Bogale, one of the areas hardest hit by the cyclone, where he earns a meagre income as a fisherman. Helping people overcome their traumas and losses is an important part of the recovery process. So the Red Cross is implementing an extensive psychosocial support program in more than 600 villages. Hundreds of volunteers have been trained in recognizing symptoms, dealing with stress, and how to help people cope with it. In many cases, the volunteers themselves have experienced losses and joined the relief operation afterwards. They use the hard and committed work as part of their own psychological recovery, helping their neighbours along the way. Joswa Min became a Red Cross volunteer 10 years before Nargis. His own house was destroyed by the cyclone. He's not yet been able to rebuild it. He spends most of his time as a volunteer in the psychosocial program, assisting his neighbours in the community like Nyet Nine. Back in Jailat, the walkway for the children is taking shape. It's one of the 85 projects in 11 townships being implemented. The projects include repairs to roads, ponds and jetties, land restoration work and cleaning of the environment. Only one person from each family can participate in a Cash for Work project. Mint Kin represents her family and intends to use the $30 for a new roof for the house and to keep her children in school. Handing out cash to those affected by disasters is an uncommon practice for most relief agencies. But the method empowers people to define their own needs and make their own decisions. Although the amount of money is small, it can sometimes make a big difference, filling a gap or helping the beneficiaries get back on track. Other programs give small grants to farmers, fishermen and other labourers, which enable them to buy seeds, nets and tools to generate their own incomes once again. Myet Naim is on his way to the local temple. He's chosen meditation as one of the means to cope with the loss of his family. When volunteer Jo Swamin approached him the first few times, he didn't want to talk about what he'd been through, but he's now making progress through talking and through meditation. In fact, monks, teachers and community leaders have all approached the Red Cross to receive training in psychosocial support, as they all deal with people with different kinds of traumas. The Red Cross is now considering a closer cooperation with the temples in the vicinity, using meditation in the healing process. While talks and meditation help individuals, the main part of the psychosocial support is aimed at groups. Singing, playing and sports are all important parts of the recovery process, and each township organises its own activities. The volunteer Jo Swamin is actually a professional comedian. He is able to use humour in his support work. Special attention is given to the children in schools. Children who have experienced disasters and suffer from stress often have a reduced capacity to learn and to socialize. After the cyclone, many children feared being away from their family and going back to school where many of their friends were missing. Gradually, schools have begun working again, and the Red Cross is supporting the reconstruction of almost 100 schools, some of which will also function as evacuation centres. Activities such as drawing and colouring are used to get children to express fears and feelings that have been hidden inside. These drawings form the basis for talks, which can help the children overcome some of their stress and improve their self-confidence. This little song has been composed by one of the Red Cross volunteers. It illustrates the intensifying drumming sound the rain makes on the zinc roofs, which is still scaring many children and adults. But it ends with the forceful clapping of both hands, something you control, something you do when someone wins, something you do when you're happy. It's something which is even stronger than the heavy rain. All of these activities are still very necessary in a delta where for most part, even as people gradually reclaim their lives, no children play outside in the rain as they once did, and where a slight wind continues to instill fear and anxiety 1 year after the cyclone.